My family took a luxury trip on my money while I fought for my life, so I cut them off and turned their fraud into a loss they never saw coming. My name is Jenna Blake. I used to be the financial pillar of the entire family. The good daughter, working tirelessly, paying the mortgage, covering medications, even paying off mom's emergency credit card. But when I was hospitalized with sepsis, lying on oxygen in the ICU, my mom, dad, and sister were sipping cocktails in Hawaii. They were posting beach photos, wearing bikinis, checking in at luxury restaurants, and not a single one of them called to ask if I was alive or dead. My sister texted, "Guess you'd have to die to be worth talking about." I took a screenshot of that message and started wiping out every privilege they'd ever had from me. If you looked at my track record, full scholarship, early graduation in cybersecurity, and an offer from a tech company in San Diego at just 23, you'd think this girl must have a family that's really proud of her. But the truth is, not in the way you think. To them, I wasn't a daughter, I was a lifeline. When my dad, Rick, lost everything in a real estate investment in Arizona and emptied his retirement account, I was the one who wired him money to pay off the bank loan so he wouldn't lose the house. When my mom, Karen, called herself a retired life coach at 54, which really meant sitting around all day playing Sudoku and rewatching Real Housewives on TV, I was the one quietly covering the electric, water, and internet bills for the entire house without a word of complaint. Was it so bad? And when my sister Savannah announced she was dropping out in her second year of community college to pursue an influencer career, I gritted my teeth and paid $3,200 so she could buy a professional camera and enroll in a TikTok course taught by a washed-up YouTuber. "Don't you get it?" Savannah once said over dinner on my birthday, which I cooked. "Girls nowadays don't care about degrees. It sounds so dry and boring. I want to inspire people with my real life." I was too exhausted to react. I worked 12-hour days at a cybersecurity firm that patched system vulnerabilities for financial businesses. My job wasn't flashy on Instagram. It didn't come with a spotlight. It didn't earn daily praise. But I made enough to keep my entire family comfortable, at least by their standards. "Family's about supporting each other, Jenna," my mom would say every time I hesitated before transferring a large amount of money. The most recent time was when she urgently needed $15,000 to restore her post-pregnancy bust. Of course, her last pregnancy was 22 years ago, but she said it was an investment in personal happiness. "Don't be selfish, sweetie. This is what I need to get my confidence back. Didn't you say I was the one you love most?" I wired the money the next morning. My dad was different. He never demanded, but he had a way of making you feel guilty. "I used to think I'd leave something behind for my kids," he said one night after finishing the $300 bottle of wine I'd bought for Christmas. "Turns out I even needed Jenna to help me pay for a Ford." I smiled lightly. "It's okay, Dad. I can handle it." "I know," he sighed, "but I really shouldn't have let you carry this burden so early." His words sounded kind, but they left me with this nagging sense that I was doing something wrong even though I was the one paying for everything. Savannah, on the other hand, had no guilt at all. "I'm building my personal brand," she said like she was the CEO of some media empire. "You wouldn't understand. People with vision make sacrifices." Her sacrifice was spending my money. Mine was myself. I couldn't remember the last time I bought myself new clothes. I couldn't remember what a real weekend felt like. And I didn't dare admit to anyone that nearly 70% of my monthly income went to people who didn't even ask how I was doing. When I started having a persistent cough in early March, I kept going to work as usual. I thought it was just a light cold. Even when I collapsed in the bathroom, hit my head against the wall, and was rushed to the ER, I still vaguely thought, Mom will come, Dad will sit by me, Savannah will probably post a story and say something nice. But they didn't come, and when I called, they left a voicemail from Honolulu Airport. "Don't be dramatic, sweetie. We paid for Hawaii months ago." I lay there listening to the steady rhythm of the ventilator in the ICU. No one was by my side, and for the first time in my life, I wondered if I died here, who would pay for my funeral, me or the credit card I gave Mom last year? I don't remember the exact time I woke up in the ICU, just that the overhead lights were blinding and the heart monitor beeped like a ticking clock. I was out of critical condition, at least physically. Every breath still hurt, but not as much as the hollow feeling gnawing from the inside. The first thing I did when I woke up was reach for my phone, hoping to find a message, some sign someone cared. A text from Mom, Dad, Savannah, anyone. But no, the screen only flashed low battery warnings and a few marketing messages. I tapped open Instagram. I don't even know why. maybe instinct. And then I wished I hadn't. The first story was from Savannah. She was lounging on a yacht, wearing a red bikini, holding a turquoise cocktail, eyes closed, a soft smile on her lips, her legs crossed. The caption below read, "Some of us know how to live." The next photo was my mom. She was standing in front of a fancy seafood restaurant wearing a new white dress, her hair curled in soft waves. Behind her was a sunlit ocean and a giant lobster platter. Caption, "Best trip ever. No drama, no guilt." Then came my dad. He stood on a golf course, holding a club, beige cap on his head, face relaxed, wearing a faint smile like he'd just laid down a burden. The caption had 4 simple words, "Finally, peace." All 3 of them. 3 people I had sacrificed my youth for, caring, worrying, providing. They were living the dream, while I, 26 years old, lay alone, tubes running across my body, not knowing if I'd still be breathing the next morning. I examined every angle in those photos, every caption, every reaction emoji their friends left. Not a single mention of me. I tapped the message icon, opened the family group chat. "I'm still in ICU. Could someone come, please? I'm scared." I hit send. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes passed. I told myself maybe they were out of signal, maybe they were having dinner. I tried to believe that. An hour later, my mom replied, "If you're still texting, then you're fine. We'll talk when you're ready to pay for our round-trip airfare." As if having them by my side on my deathbed was a service I needed to prepay. I scrolled down and reopened Savannah's photo. She was dancing on the beach with some random guy. The caption read, "Manifesting soft life only." I'd never seen anyone manifest so easily, especially using someone else's share. I tried texting my dad privately. "Dad, I'm doing a little better, but I really need someone here, even just one person." He read it at 9:03 p.m. No reply. But 5 minutes later, I saw he'd posted a story, a video of his golf swing from a 5-star hotel with the background music, "Don't worry, be happy." Maybe to them, the fact that I didn't die was enough. Everything else, the fear, the loneliness, the helplessness, was outside the scope of what family was responsible for. 15 minutes later, Savannah messaged me privately. "Seriously, Jenna, you always do this, being dramatic to get attention. Maybe dying will finally make you interesting." I took a screenshot immediately, not because I knew I'd need it later, but because I couldn't believe I was actually reading that from my own sister, like the final puzzle piece clicking into place, revealing the full picture I'd never dared to look at directly. I wasn't the responsible daughter. I was a breathing ATM, the backup financial plan for 3 fully grown, healthy adults who could take care of themselves but chose not to. So if they could live lavishly on the money I worked myself into the ground to earn while I lay there waiting for each drip of 4 to keep me alive, then I could start living without them. I opened my laptop with shaking hands, the force still in the back of my left hand, the heart monitor wires tangled over my shoulder. But I couldn't wait any longer. Some things, if I didn't start right then, I knew I'd give in again. The hospital Wi-Fi was spotty, but I was patient enough to log into the first online banking portal. Automatic transfers, $3,200 each month sent to an account under the name Karen L. Blake. My mother. Note covering mortgage and other household expenses. I clicked cancel recurring payment. No hesitation. Then I went to the credit card tab. One authorized user card issued under my name but used by my mom for the past 3 years. Limit $15,000. Meant for emergencies, medical needs, car repairs, unexpected expenses. The most recent transaction, a jewelry store on Kalakaua Avenue in Honolulu. Amount $1,827. Note, diamond bracelet. Treat yourself, girl. I clicked report stolen card. The system asked if I wanted to freeze the card immediately. I typed yes. Everything happened silently. Then I logged into my investment portal. All 3 family members were listed under beneficiaries. Savannah 40%. My parents 30% each. I clicked remove all current beneficiaries. A small window popped up. Are you sure you want to proceed? These changes may impact your estate plan. I stared at that line for a few seconds, then typed, I'm sure they made that decision for me when they booked a vacation instead of a flight to my hospital room. Just a few clicks later, all of my assets, stocks, retirement accounts, investment funds were no longer tied to anyone named Blake except me. Nearly an hour later, when the nurse came in to check my temperature, I pretended to be asleep. Not because I was scared of being asked anything, but because I wasn't sure I could speak to anyone like a normal person just yet. I needed one more step. I opened my contacts and called Tom Carter, the attorney who had helped me set up my will and power of attorney documents 2 years ago. The phone rang 3 times before he picked up. "Jenna, I heard from Luna, your investment advisor. She said you're in the hospital." His voice was gentle but clearly worried, trying not to panic but failing a little. "I'm doing better, but I need your help with something. Anything. I want to revoke the full power of attorney I gave my parents, and I want to update the will. They're no longer beneficiaries." There was a pause. I could hear keys tapping. He was probably pulling up my file. "Jenna, are you sure you're still in recovery? Legal changes like this are best made when I'm fully clear-headed." I cut him off. "Trust me, I've never been more clear. I need to do this to move forward." "Understood." He paused, voice low. "I'll begin redrafting everything. You'll just need to sign once you're out. Thank you." I hung up and exhaled. What took 10 minutes on paper had just lifted 10 years' worth of weight from my chest. I was about to rest when a new email came in from the bank. Subject line, "Unusual loan activity under the name Jenna Blake." I opened it and my heart skipped. An $18,000 personal loan opened 11 months ago. Name Jenna Blake with a contact email, confirmation address, and receiving bank account weren't mine. I checked the details. The email used was a variation j.blake2020@gmail.com. Not my personal or work email. Recipient Savannah Blake. She had impersonated me to take out a loan, without asking, without a single word. And I had signed off on it without realizing, probably hidden in a stack of urgent documents Mom handed me one December night, while I was busy handling year-end cybersecurity breaches. Her voice still echoed in my head. "Sweetie, I just need your signature on a few bank forms, not for me, to update some old insurance stuff." Signed. And now I was holding nearly $20,000 of debt that Savannah used to fly to Mexico for soul healing. I stared at the loan summary, the dizziness rising, not from infection this time, but from the realization I'd handed over far too much power. The 3 days after I left the hospital with 4 bruises still fading, I received the first call from my mother. 6:47 p.m. I was sitting on the couch in my quiet apartment holding a bowl of chicken soup I'd ordered from my favorite local place. The phone rang Mom. I let it ring 12 times. Then it stopped. 10 minutes later, she called again. I picked up. I wanted to hear what she'd sound like when for the first time ever she couldn't swipe my card. "Jenna," she said, voice sharp and almost panicked. "Something's wrong. The credit card was declined at the restaurant. Do you know anything about that?" I set the spoon down, answered calmly. "I reported it lost while I was still in the ICU." "What?" She sounded stunned. "But that's the family card. We use it for essentials. Why would you?" "I saw someone use it to buy a diamond bracelet in Hawaii. So, I reported it." Silence. Then her voice shot up. "Jenna Elise Blake, you can't do this. We're stuck out here. No money, no hotel room. Are you planning to let your parents and sister sleep on the street?" I said, "I thought this trip was already paid for." "That's what you told me." I hung up. Didn't wait for her reply. Less than 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. Savannah knew she couldn't handle being told no. "Are you insane?" Savannah screamed. "You canceled all the cards, shut down accounts, reported Mom for theft. We can't pay for the room. We can't buy food. Do you know this is going to get us kicked out of the hotel?" "I know," I said. "I also know you took out an $18,000 loan in my name without saying a word." Savannah froze, then stammered. What are you talking about? I didn't save it." I cut her off. "You didn't even bother faking a new email address. You still used my name. Even your fraud is lazy." A sob. Then the line went dead. The next day, I met Tom at his office to sign the official paperwork to press charges against Savannah for identity theft and asset misappropriation. Tom brought all the evidence I'd sent, account statements, loan confirmation emails, banking access records linked to Savannah, and a prepared report to be submitted to the police. "I'll send the file to the authorities first thing in the morning," Tom said, his voice calm as always. "With how clear this evidence is, the case should move quickly." And it did. 4 days later, at 6 a.m., police knocked on my parents' door. Savannah was live-streaming a clay mask tutorial when the knock hit like thunder. "Savannah Blake," the officer asked. "We have a warrant for your arrest on charges related to identity fraud and unauthorized use of financial assets." My mom fainted on the doorstep. Neighbors came running and everything was exposed. Not by me, but by their own actions. I thought that would be the end of it. But Tom called again that evening, and his voice sounded heavier than usual. "Jenna," he began, "I know you're already dealing with a lot, But there's something else, something I think you need to know. What is it? While reviewing your finances to prepare the case file, I found an old loan under your name, $40,000. But the address, phone number, even the signature don't match. The bank confirmed the paperwork was filed at a branch in Pasadena, exactly 5 blocks from your parents' house. Tom continued. The applicant was Rick Blake, your father. He used your social security number, created the application, and forged the signature. The bank didn't catch it because your accounts were still receiving regular deposits at the time. He used the loan to invest in a real estate fund that went bankrupt over a year ago. My father, the man who once looked across the dinner table and said, I only regret not leaving something behind for you. Turns out what he left behind was a debt in my name. I closed my eyes. The image of him checking in at the golf course with the caption, finally, peace, flashed vividly. They really had found peace. While I lay alone in the hospital and they spent what was left of everything I worked for. I was making tea in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. At first I thought it was a delivery. I'd ordered a new reading lamp for my desk. But when I looked at the security screen, my heart stopped. 3 figures. My mother, father, and Savannah stood in front of my apartment door. My mom wore an old knit coat, clutching her purse tightly, eyes red like she'd been crying. Savannah looked thinner than the last time I saw her, her hair pulled back sloppily with a rubber band. My dad stood behind them, hands in his coat pockets, avoiding the camera. I hesitated a few seconds, then pressed the intercom button. Jenna, sweetheart! My mother's voice was trembling, almost shaking. I know you're angry. I know I was wrong, but please, can you let me speak for a moment? No, I replied evenly. We have nothing left to say to each other. Savannah cut in. You can't just ignore your family like this. I know you're mad about the loan, but that was a small mistake. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I stayed silent, and then my mom shifted tactics. She began to cry loudly. We're family, Jenna. We've been through so much together. You can't erase everything over a few mistakes. I ended the call. They stayed there, ringing the bell repeatedly. I called building security and asked them to intervene. Within 10 minutes, they were asked to leave. 2 days later, Savannah posted a video on social media. She wore a gray hoodie, sitting in front of the camera, like she was genuinely heartbroken. Hands wrapped around a mug, voice trembling. I don't know if anyone else has a family like mine, but my sister, Jenna Blake, the one who used to be our family's hero, has completely changed. After one hospital stay, she became distant, paranoid. She cut off all contact, took us to court. I don't understand. How can someone become so cruel? She's destroying this family. She ended with a soft sob, lowering her head as if carrying an unspeakable sorrow. The video spread quickly, even though she had barely over 400 followers. Savannah tagged every relative, old classmate, and anyone who had ever known me. I got a message from a teammate at work. Jenna, you need to see this. At first I felt angry, then hurt, and for a moment, worried. Would people who once trusted me start to doubt? But then something unexpected happened on LinkedIn, internal Slack threads, even Twitter. People started to speak up. A former coworker wrote, I worked with Jenna for 3 years. She's calm, fair, and always kind. If she walked away from her family, she had a reason and I believe her. A longtime client commented, Jenna once helped our company through a massive data breach. I don't know her personal life, but I do know this. Someone like her doesn't act without cause. A senior engineer in the industry posted bluntly, Savannah Blake's video is textbook emotional manipulation. Anyone who's ever had a toxic family can spot it instantly. Within 48 hours, the video was taken down from Savannah's account, but I'd already saved it along with every comment. All of it was sent to Tom to add to the legal case file. Tom called me that afternoon, voice firm. This is a double-edged sword for them, Jenna. They thought public pressure would break you, but you've got an entire community behind you. I never imagined I'd stand in court, not to defend a mistake I made, but to ask to be left in peace. That morning, the sky was gray. I arrived over an hour early, sitting in my car outside the courthouse, clutching a folder. Inside were all the things they thought would leave no trace: messages, bank statements, loan emails, vacation photos, online smear clips, even a voicemail from my mother yelling in the middle of the night, "We gave birth to you. We have the right to take it back." Tom met me on the courthouse steps. He handed me a bottle of water and gave me a silent, steady look. "No one can take the truth from you," he said. "You don't have to prove you're perfect today. You only have to tell the truth." Across the room sat my mother in a beige blouse, her hair softly curled, lips tinted with pale lipstick. My father wore a white shirt and an old blazer. Savannah had thin-rimmed glasses on, trying to look worn out. They looked like they were walking into a funeral, except the one being buried was the image of themselves in the public eye. The judge was an older woman, petite, clear-voiced, unwavering. We are here today to hear the petition for a permanent restraining order between the petitioner, Miss Jenna Blake, and the three respondents, Rick Blake, Karen Blake, and Savannah Blake. The court asks for order and no interruptions. The attorney representing my family stood first. Your Honor, he began, the Blake family does not deny that conflicts have occurred recently. However, we believe the petitioner has acted out of proportion due to a serious health event that triggered psychological distress and caused her to perceive her family as enemies. My mother lowered her head, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief as if she'd practiced it. My father remained silent. Savannah looked at me, lips pressed tight, as though holding back tears. The lawyer continued, Jenna was once the financial provider. Yes, but that doesn't mean she was forced. It was a voluntary act of love from a daughter who cared for her family. The abrupt cutoff and legal action were not acts of self-preservation. They were punitive signs of an unstable mindset. I kept my face steady. No reaction. Then it was our turn. Tom stood, flipping open a binder with numbered tabs. Your Honor, he said, we are not here to argue emotions. We are here with facts. Presented here are bank statements showing thousands of dollars transferred monthly from Miss Jenna's account to her family's over the past 4 years. Credit card records documenting misuse for jewelry, cosmetics, airline tickets, and vacations. A message from Miss Savannah Blake to the petitioner while she was in the ICU. Maybe dying will finally make you interesting. Evidence of unauthorized loans in Miss Jenna's name, including an $18,000 loan signed fraudulently by Savannah, and a $40,000 loan filed by Mr. Rick Blake using his own daughter's social security number. Social media photos taken during the petitioner's hospitalization for sepsis while the respondents were vacationing in Hawaii. A video posted by respondent Savannah accusing her sister of mental instability, followed by responses from the tech community, friends, colleagues, and clients, all confirming the petitioner is competent, professional, and mentally sound. The judge raised her hand. Pause. Miss Jenna Blake, do you wish to speak before I make my decision? My breath was slow. My voice didn't shake. Low and clear. Your Honor, I have nothing to prove beyond what they've already done. I once loved this family enough to give up everything, my money, my time, even my health. But while I was in the hospital, unsure if I would survive, they were sipping cocktails on a yacht, buying diamond bracelets, and when I begged for help, they told me to stop being dramatic. I didn't cut them off out of anger. I cut them off to survive. The judge nodded. The court has reviewed all evidence and testimony. This is not a simple family dispute. This is a pattern of financial abuse, emotional manipulation, and public defamation. The claims are dangerous and the defendants are complicit in their actions. She paused briefly, then declared, a permanent restraining order is hereby granted against all three respondents. They are to remain at least 500 feet away from the petitioner's residence and place of employment. No direct or indirect contact is permitted. Any violations will result in criminal charges. That wasn't all. As the hearing adjourned, a representative from the district attorney's office stepped forward with an official notice of investigation into the financial abuse regarding the fraudulent loans in my name. My father turned pale. My mother staggered, gripping the side of her chair. Savannah whipped around toward the door like she couldn't escape fast enough. I stood, walked away from the witness stand, and never looked back. I received an email from Mark Collins, HR director at Technora, on a rainy Monday morning. Jenna, we were highly impressed with the work you did during last year's security project. The executive board would like to offer you the position of vice president of system security. The compensation package includes a base salary of $290,000 per year, stock options, a private office, and full authority to build your own team from the ground up. I had spent my entire youth running around trying to keep others from falling while no one caught me. Now I knew how to stand tall on my own. And someone wanted me to do that, not for them, but with them. I accepted the offer within 3 hours. 3 weeks later, I officially began my new role at Technora's headquarters in San Diego. On my first day, I walked into the office with a cappuccino in hand and a black leather briefcase, a gift I gave myself when I signed the contract. The office had floor-to-ceiling windows facing the harbor, sunlight pouring in, a clean desk, and a bouquet of yellow tulips from the engineering team. Beneath the card was a handwritten note, "Thank you for choosing to be the leader we need." A few days later, I moved into my new home, A small house on a hillside with a back porch big enough for 2 lounge chairs and an oak table. I adopted a golden retriever and named him Mochi. On the first afternoon after the curtains were up, I sat on the porch holding Mochi, watching the sunlight stretch across the grass, feeling a strange and quiet peace. Tom started visiting more often. We hadn't rushed to label what we were, but everything between us felt as natural as if it had always been there. He'd bring red wine and toasted bread and sit beside me listening to soft music after long days. "Jenna," he said one late evening as I rested my head on his shoulder, "you know you deserve every bit of this good, right?" I smiled faintly. For the first time in my life, I think I'm starting to believe that. While I rebuilt my life with calm and quiet trust, they sank deeper into the consequences they created. I heard from a mutual contact that Savannah's social media accounts had been permanently banned for violating anti-harassment policies. That old video, the slander posts, the biting captions, they'd all been reported by the very people who once followed her. Weeks later, I discovered my mother had launched a GoFundMe page titled, "Help My Daughter Recover from Mental Illness. She Needs Her Family Back." The campaign featured a blurry photo of me cropped from an old graduation picture. Below it, a teary story that I had changed after the hospitalization, become paranoid and cold, and pushed my family into emotional and financial homelessness. Within 12 hours, the page was flooded with comments, not from me, but from people I'd worked with, clients I'd supported, former classmates who had seen me stand alone through years no one else would. "I work with Jenna. This woman is manipulating the public. Please don't fall for it. Jenna once slept under her desk 3 nights straight to protect our hospital's servers. What kind of family twists the truth for donations?" My mother took the page down by the second day, but I had already archived everything and sent it to Tom just in case we needed it for a future defamation suit. I thought that was the peak, but then another phone call came. "Miss Jenna Blake," the man on the line sounded like an investigator. "We need to verify some details related to a credit application filed under your name last week." I closed my laptop and sat up straight. "Credit application? I didn't apply for anything new. That's exactly why we're contacting you." The application was submitted at a bank branch in Bakersfield. The signature and social security number match your personal information. However, several details suggest this was a fraudulent act. The applicant was Rick Blake. He wasn't done. We forwarded the case to the district attorney's office, and as of today, Mr. Rick Blake has been taken into custody for first-degree identity fraud and misuse of personal information for financial gain. "Thank you for letting me know." I hung up the phone, stepped out onto the back porch, and sat down beside Mochi, who was chewing on his old tennis ball. Their choices had been clear for a long time. I was simply the last to realize it. That afternoon, while I was trimming a bunch of white chrysanthemums I had just brought home to place in the porcelain vase on the dining table, my phone rang. The caller was Aunt Helen, my mom's cousin, living in the northern part of the state, someone I had barely kept in touch with for years. "Jenna." Her voice was still deep and slow, just like I remembered. "I wasn't sure if I should call, but I think you should know this." "What is it, Aunt?" "Last week your mother came to my house. No warning. She sat the whole afternoon just to say one thing. That you abandoned the family when they were falling apart. That you cut all ties because of mental instability after you were discharged." But Helen paused for a moment, then continued, her voice not exactly sad, more like regretful. "I listened, but I didn't believe her. Not because I'm defending you, but because this whole town's read the news. They've seen it all. Everyone saying, 'Isn't she the one whose whole family went to Hawaii while she was in the ICU?' I'm not upset, Aunt," I said. "My mom's told that story to many people, and each time she does, they believe me a little more." "Jenna," she said gently, "you don't owe anyone any more explanations. The people who needed to understand already do." After the call, I sat still for a long while looking at the vase in front of me. The ivory white petals under the soft evening light made me think of something I never imagined I could think of peacefully. A wedding. Tom had proposed on an early spring evening. We were eating pizza on the porch, his hand holding mine, his eyes steady and full of intent. "I don't need a big ceremony, I just need you to say yes so I can call you home." I laughed and then cried. I once thought I'd never believe in a kind of love that didn't come with conditions, but Tom was there from the moment I was at my weakest. Not because he thought I was strong, but because he believed I deserved gentleness. We held a small ceremony right in our backyard. Only 18 guests, old college friends, 2 former co-workers who once brought soup to me in the hospital, the ICU head nurse, My investment advisor Luna and Tom's family. Carol, the kind of mother-in-law who never asked me for anything except to eat one more slice of cake because you still look too thin, sweetheart. There was no extravagant dress. I wore a simple white gown, hair tied low, holding a bouquet of lavender and wild daisies I arranged myself. Tom stood there in a light gray suit, wearing that familiar soft smile. When the officiant said, "You may now kiss your wife," what I saw in his eyes wasn't triumph, but trust. Trust in me. Trust in the life we were building together. None of my biological family was invited, and no one asked why. Because everyone present had once held my hand during the days no one else would. After the ceremony, I sat next to Carol on the bench outside. She reached over and gently stroked my hair. A small gesture, but one that made something collapse inside me. "You know," she whispered, "some people have children, but never learn how to be parents. That's not your fault. I used to think forgiveness was necessary in order to move on. But the truth is some things don't need to be forgiven, only released. And when I let them go, I found my hands had room for other things. Lighter, kinder, more real. I don't usually go grocery shopping at noon, especially not on weekends. But that day Tom had a last-minute meeting, and I'd forgotten to order food for Mochi. The small grocery store near our home wasn't too crowded. The lights were warm, soft music playing from overhead speakers. I was standing in the frozen food aisle, holding a bag of dog food, when a familiar movement caught my eye. A woman stood 3 aisles over, hair hurriedly tied back. Silver roots clearly showing, an oversized coat hanging off her frame, holding a coupon sheet covered in red ink. She was picking out instant noodles, her eyes sunken, dark circles stark. It took me less than a second to recognize her. My mother. I didn't turn away, nor did I approach. I simply stayed still, quietly watching. She turned as if she felt someone's gaze. Her eyes met mine. We looked at each other, not for long, but long enough for me to see her breath hitch, her eyes widen, surprise, confusion, and then regret. She walked slowly toward me, still holding the noodles. "Jenna," she said softly. She stopped right in front of me, quiet for a moment. "You look healthy," she said. "I'm fine." Her voice dropped. "I know we're no longer anything to each other, but I need to say something. Just one thing." "I know," she whispered. "We lost the best thing that ever happened to this family. It's not about what you lost, it's about what I finally gained." She lingered in silence, eyes searching for a response, but I gave her none. No more anger, no more expectation. I turned and walked away. When I got home, the sky had just turned dark. Mochi ran to greet me at the door, tail wagging like a soft wave, his favorite pillow in his mouth like a trophy. Tom was toasting bread at the stove. The smell of butter filled the house. He looked up when I came in, smiling. Just in time. The oven beeped a minute ago. "Want to sit on the porch with me?" I nodded. We sat there on the familiar bench outside. Mochi curled at my feet. In the distance, the city lights were coming on, a golden constellation stretching across the ground. I leaned against Tom's shoulder, hands loosely wrapped around my mug of tea. I thought of many things, the hospital nights, the transfers, the doorbell ringing with 3 people who used to be called family. And then it all faded like a dream I had already woken from. I looked out and said to no one in particular, I never wanted revenge. I only wanted freedom. And walking away from the people who left me to die alone was the bravest thing I've ever done. Tom said nothing. He held my hand a little tighter. Mochi stirred slightly, nudging his nose into my leg like a soft reminder that the present was still here and very real.